G'day guys, Mike with the Outer Circle, and in today's episode we're going to be looking at the Legacies of the Age of Darkness, Demons of the Ruinstorm list. We now have a functioning army list. So, I stayed very quiet on the subject of Demons of the Ruinstorm beyond the original release of their allied detachment back in March of this year. And the reason I stayed quiet was because I was pretty convinced they were coming soon, and even though summer had passed and they said that the list was going to get dropped in summer, I was pretty certain they were going to drop later. And a few of you would know that I actually predicted that it would drop this week. And, well, yes, so it happened to be. Now, funny thing about this list is it does not represent years worth of work. We need to get that out of the way straight away, real early on. Because this list is a very, very, very pale imitation of the previous edition's list. It is a significant downgrade in terms of scale. So if the previous edition, Militia, transitioned across really, really well from Heresy 1 to Heresy 2 in that you have a large comprehensive list with lots of war gear, lots of unit entries, this is the polar opposite. There is less war gear and far less units. In fact, I also decided to pull up the original document, the Burning of Ommat, which was the rules that we got for the Demons of the Ruinstorm as an allied detachment, and we're modified slightly from that for this list. They've added 2 additional HQs types, as well as changing up Samus, adding Korvax Utterblight, who wasn't in this book and I joked about. And they've added in your sort of lesser demons, things like that. Now this document, which admittedly includes fluff at the start, and includes a mission at the back, a couple of pages of art, is 25 pages long. Okay, so page 25 is set up the top. This new document is 24 pages long. And that is without the big fluff, and it doesn't have the art or a mission. So although it is longer, they're kind of in the ballpark of one another. And you compare a list like this to, say, the Legiones Astartes, or to maybe something like the Militia. Militia is a great example because the Militia themselves, as a list, are much, much longer than that. They're a lot more than 25 pages. And if you look at the Legacies of the Age of Darkness for the Legiones Astartes, that gives just the extra, super heavies and Lords of War and things like that. That is 105 pages long. So this is a short book, and I just want to talk about that, get it out of the way right at the start. So, going into the list, gone is the old methods of utilising the Demons of the Ruinstorm and the old ways that they were brought into play. Plays much more conventionally than that. They've got their Gargantuan unit subtype in here, and what you need to understand is the demon unit type, which sadly is not in this book. And because every unit has it, I feel like it's one of those things like just add it for the sake of posterity, because now when you want to find out everything about that unit type, you have to turn to that page in the basic rulebook. It's a no-brainer. If a rule is just force-wide, just put it in there, especially because this is the only force that has demons en masse, as it were. Why isn't that rule in here? Because every single unit in this book, as you'll see, is demon subtype, and you need to know what it does and how it's affected. So speaking of, before I get into any of the other rules, demon type. It is very similar to infantry, but is not infantry. That means any rule that triggers on infantry does not trigger on demons, because they are not infantry. It also means that you cannot hop into vehicles or transports of any type, even if you are demon infantry. There are also no other subtypes present in this except for the Gargantuan and monstrous subtypes. Flying units are not flying. They are not jump infantry. They are not anti-grav. They are not cavalry. They are not beasts. No, the only unit types present are demon, Demon Monstrous, and Demon Gargantuan in this entire document. So there are some things missing here. Another thing about the demon rule is Yes, you're going to be immune to morale, but you take morale checks. And if you fail them after losing combat, you will take D3 wounds instead of running away from the combat. That can really bite you on the bum when you have very poor leadership stats. And the last big thing about the demon rule to keep in mind is, if you take a wound from a weapon with the force special rule, it's instant death. And there are a lot of force weapons out there, and this is very much going to dictate your playstyle with this list. Now, we have Etheric Dominions, which are sort of the demon equivalent of the Legiones Astartes, and they are supposed to echo the different Chaos Gods and also some sort of undivided shenanigans. So Heedless Slaughter, that's Khorne. Putrid Corruption, it's Nurgle. Rapturous Sensation, that's supposed to be Slaanesh. Formless Distortion, bit of a Tzeentch thing. Infernal Tempest, maybe also Tzeentch. It's a bit weird. Anyway, they pretty much all suck. The Etheric Dominion Encroaching Ruin, I think the buff when it comes to morale, like you only take 1 wound instead of D3, that's probably very useful for the majority of this army, because when you do lose a close combat, you're not going to be taking huge casualties from it. Heedless Slaughter, yeah, okay. You're getting boosted charges, essentially. It's not terrible, it's not great either, it will do the job. Your Putrid Corruption is a poor man's version of Feel No Pain, and you don't get to use it against things like instant death, psychic focus, that kind of thing. I don't know why it's not worded as a Feel No Pain, because it's basically what it is. It's just, it is what it is, right? And so many units will not get to make use of it that, again, this is army-wide, so whatever you pick, you want to get the most use out of. You don't want to just say, oh, I took this because it makes one model better. It's army-wide. Rapturous Sensation, reroll all failed initiative tests when you blinded or fight at 1 initiative step higher. That's not going to come into play very often, because many of the units you want to be fighting and eliminating quickly is things like Terminators. Well, many Terminators are going to be using things like Thunder Hammers, so they're going to be striking you at initiative 1 when your average initiative in this army is going to be like 3 or 4. So not a big deal. And this basically repeats throughout. So rather than go through all of these unit types and such that are given by Etheric Dominion, just know they all kind of suck. And yeah, even ones like this, the Malevolent Artifice, mods of this special rule may reroll all failed armor saves taken against any wounds resolved at a strength lower than their unmodified toughness. So Demons of the Ruinstorm have a boosted toughness at the start of the game because they've been recently summoned into play. Well, it doesn't matter if you're toughness 7, for example. It needs to be a strength 5 weapon that hits you before you get to reroll that failed armor save. And we'll come back to armor saves in a moment. Warlord traits. The Warlord traits. Entropic Force is basically you're making enemy damage mitigation worse. Not a big deal particularly, is it? So let's not worry about that one. Alright, what about Eternal Reveler? Well, I can run and charge, which is good, but I'm charging fixed distances based on initiative. There is no boosts there. It's very, very situational. The Walker of Paths, essentially providing a boost to you if you want to use reserves in your army rather than regular deployment time. You can't really take great advantage of it. Yeah, you could use some monstrous creatures or something like that, maybe outflank them on the battlefield in some way, but it's no. There's a lot of things you have to set up for this to really pay off, and I don't know that that's worth it for the average player. So really it comes down to Conqueror of Kings, which is just a buff to make your Warlord better, because you're going to get extra attacks and extra strength when fighting against independent characters and their units. That's the Warlord trait. And I don't like reading these army lists that are being written where the options become a take this or you're an idiot. And this is one of those army lists where it's like, why are you taking anything else? Like, that is the ability. With the militia, there was so much going on there where it was like, okay, there are a lot of fun builds I can make. Let's try them all out. and it's cool to have the variety, the options, the versatility. This does not have that. So then we get down into the HQs. Now, the Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign is a slightly buffed version of the old Ruinstorm Archdemon Lord. And there is no limit on this for some reason. This should be a 0 to 1 unit choice. Judging off the points, the stat line, it's not a 0 to 1 unit choice. It's you can take all 3 HQ slots as this. So what is really preventing people from doing this? Well, let's see. Etheric Dominion, okay, Etheric Invulnerability, and get 4 up in Volsay, very nice. Empyrean Avatar. Well, Empyrean Avatar, what is that? Well, that's the equivalent of a Adamantic Deflector. If you take a instant death wound, you only take D3 wounds instead. I'm not a big fan of these rules in general. I prefer it to be a flat you take 3, because the amount of times you take an instant death hit and take a single wound, it's basically saying that, hey, this weapon, which is your ultimate weakness that should instantly kill you, did the same damage to you as a single bolt gun round. Doesn't feel right, but anyway, that's how that works. Etheric Invulnerability, though. This is a funny one, because you think, well, what's that? It's an invulnerable save, right? Well, it is. Doesn't work against those pesky Psychic Force attacks, which are instant death. And there is no force weapon that is worse than AP3 in the game. And that means you don't get a normal save, you don't get an invul save, and they're instant death against you, and an activated force weapon is probably going to be strength 8 or 9. Say, a Force Maul, for example. That means very, very bad things happen for your Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign, because you don't get an armor save. Every wound caused against you by a force weapon becomes D3 wounds. Esoterists, Stormseers, Librarians, Wolf Priests, anyone who can bring a force weapon to the party is just terrifying for a Demon Sovereign, because they can make 350 base points vanish incredibly quickly. So you go, alright, maybe there's something else to keep me in the fight. And there is. And it's war gear upgrades. Etheric Conduit is going to make you a Psyker. So, telepathy is the discipline. You will not get a lot of mileage out of Biomancy, shocking though that may be. You've got Immaterial Wings, which is going to give you essentially jump packs. So you're going to move 14 and all the buffs of jump pack. Or Etheric Flight, which is going to give you a fixed plus 3 inches. Difference between the two really comes down to what your base movement is, because one is going to be a bigger boost than the other versus your basic movement. Miasma of Rage is going to give you Rage. Dark Flame and the Unmaking are shooting attacks, and they're not very good shooting attacks either, because you think how many points you're paying. Well, the Unmaking is a 2-shot melter gun, and the Dark Flame is a Strength 5 Flamer, AP 5, Assault, Torrent 5 inches, and Fleshbane. You know, it's not the worst weapons in the world, but you're getting one. You're getting one shot with this. You're paying 15 points. You're taking out one of your only 3 war gear slots to take this, and this is not a shooting unit. This is a close combat unit. You want it to get in there and kill things up close, and if you're killing things at range, you are making the distance you need to charge across to get into close combat greater. They don't sync up very well. And if you're using, say, the Unmaking to shoot these multiple melter gun shots to kill a vehicle, that's all good and well. You could have easily killed it in close combat. Instead, you're just going to stand in the open for a turn now after you've killed that vehicle. I don't like these kind of war gear options for that reason. If they were free, different story. But at 15 points, I mean, either one of those is expensive. And you can take both. The rules is written. And Warpforged Flesh, which is going to give you +1 armor save, maxing out at 2+. Well, you're going to want to take that. You're going to want to take the Rage, and you're going to probably want either the Wings or the Conduit, depending whether or not you want to be a Psyker or whether or not you want to get there faster. And then you've got the Sovereign Great Blade, and this is where the attacks on the unit come into play, because this particular unit, it comes with Sovereign Armaments. Now, Sovereign Armaments are the strength of the user, so in this case 7. They're going to be AP 2, Brutal 2, Murderous Strike 5+, and on a 6s to wound, they go to AP 1, because who gives a shit? What does that have over AP2? Well, it means you'll do slightly more damage against a vehicle, potentially able to blow them up a little bit more easily. Yay! Or, for 10 points, you can take the Sovereign Greatblade. Strength plus 3, so you're going to be strength 10. AP 1 fixed. Melee, brutal 3 now. Murder strike 5+. Oh, but it's unwieldy. Hello, you're monstrous. You strike at initiative with unwieldy weapons. There is no drawback. Pay the 10 points, get brutal 3, and AP 1 built in. Done. But that means if you take the appropriate upgrades on this unit to get your money's worth, to make it a killer, that's 90 points of war gear. Between either Wings or Conduit, Rage, Warpforged Flesh. You need the Warpforged Flesh, or else every Psyker under the sun is just going to cause instant death wounds on you. And you can watch, you take 3 of these guys and watch over 1,000, over 1,200 points. In fact, in a worst case scenario, over 1,300 points of demons vanish in just a couple of turns to a couple of spicy brain lightning boys. Not great. Then we get the Demon Hierarch, who is everything about the previous unit, but just a bit worse. So you drop 100 points in price, but you lose weapon skill, strength, toughness, wounds, attacks, leadership, and you lose access to the Sovereign Greatblade. And you don't have Sovereign armaments, you have Infernal armaments, which are basically useless to you as a monstrous creature. It's a bit weird. So the Infernal armaments are going to be melee, brutal 2, and on 6s to wound, become AP2 instead of AP3. Not terrible, but is that 250 point unit right there? This is going up against Praetors, which are going to cost 100 points less and have nasty or nastier war gear. So it's just, you will find 100 points somewhere to upgrade this guy into this guy. It's just, you'd be silly not to. Probably a good time to mention, there are also no base limits in this list either. So you could make a 25mm scaled Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign who is a character and monstrous and put him on a 25mm base. There's nothing saying you can't. Morally wrong, but seems like an oversight. Even if it's just a guide only, I think it probably should have something written in there. Then we get to the Demon Harbinger. So the Demon Harbinger is basically our HQ option from the Ruinstorm Allies PDF, which would be the Bound Demon Regent. Slightly pricier, but functionally pretty much identical. So it's a Demon Herald who has essentially Ruinstorm Demon Brutes as a bodyguard. Oh, and that's another thing to point out. These demons, character unit type, not independent character. So these guys are all walking around on their own. You've essentially got a double cost dreadnought in the form of the Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign who is just walking around the battlefield on his own. Double price dreadnought. Let that sink in. That means 2 Contempt dreadnoughts could double team the boy and bring him down. The Harbinger, as discussed previously, not great. You are going to spend the points on all the upgrades for it. And by the time you spend all the points on the upgrades for this guy, you've still got a unit which is going to struggle because it just doesn't have the hard-hitting ability to take on enemy elite regiments. You can't take on Terminators with these. They are going to pummel you with Thunderhammers and you have almost no response. And we're also seeing the next trend setting in, which is 4+ armor saves. 4+ armor saves are the most common in the Demons of the Ruinstorm. They're on virtually every unit. But a 4+ armor save is a problem because in Heresy 2.0, the most common armor penetration value on a weapon is 4. So most of the weapons in the game, more weapons than not, will cause you to have no armor save. Only an invulnerable save. And again, psychic weapons are instant death with the Force rule. Not applying to a Chaos Force because Thousand Suns are supposed to suck. Now, this is a huge issue for you because you're going to therefore pay for Warpforged Flesh. But you're only going to get it on the Harbinger. You're not going to get it on the Demon Attendants. They're still going to die to autocannon fire. A 3 Predator Squadron with assault cannons, Imperial Fists, will almost kill a Sovereign in a round of shooting. It will kill the Demon Harbingers. It will kill your Demon Hierarch. All of those in a single turn will die to 3 Predator tanks. And nobody is going to call Predator tanks the strongest thing in Heresy 2.0. This is an issue. And in fact, a unit like this, the Seeker and Punisher, would be terrifying too. Ruinstorm Demon Brutes, of course, weapon skill 5, strength 5, toughness 5. They've got the AP3 attacks, but because of the way the demon armaments work, they're going to be AP4, and they're only going to be AP3. No, they're going to be AP3 melee brutal 2, going to AP2 on 6s to wound. That's the one. It gets a little confusing because they use almost the identical names for everything in here, and I do apologise as you're watching this if you get confused, because it is confusing. But they have no staying power. Again, you're going to suffer against Terminators, and anything that can bring a rad grenade to drop you to toughness 4, strength 8 is going to be instant death. That is a huge problem for you because there's a lot of strength 8 out there in close combat. Terminators being the primary example of that. Your weapon skill 5 is not enough of a shield to protect you, and you don't have strength 8. You have strength 5. Strength 6 in turn 1 and 2 of the game, that's not enough. You're not going to be in close combat in turn 1. You're unlikely, unless something goes really, really well for you, you are very unlikely to be in close combat in turn 2 of the game with Ruinstorm Brutes. They're just too slow at movement 8 with no flying bonus or boost. So you're going to have a lot of issues. But we could say, oh, they're good at killing Marines. Everything's good at killing Marines. Well, I'll take that back in a minute. But Ruinstorm Demon Beasts now. Okay, 110 points, 30 points a model. Seems good on the surface. They're fast, movement 10, strength 5, 3 wounds each, 3 attacks each. Oh, this is looking good. And they've got demon armaments. Okay, what's that mean? That's going to be the strength user, AP4, which goes to AP3 on 6s to wound. Oh, so they can't really kill Marines. They definitely can't kill Terminators. They will struggle with weapon skill 5. They don't have any shooting that's worthwhile. They could take Immaterial Flame, which is it's a AP4 flamer at their strength. 5 points a model? I don't think so. Etheric Flight, okay, they're going to get that little boost to their movement. I guess you could take that. But again, strength 8 is everywhere. And we're not just talking close combat now, we're talking shooting strength 8 in close combat. Strength 6 and rad grenades means a very bad day for you. Let alone running into something like nullificators with their deflagrate mauls. They will murder pummel. In fact, here is footage of Ruinstorm Demon Beasts versus nullificators. Or maybe it could be your Demon Sovereign versus Fire Drakes or Inner Circle Knight Cenobium. Or take your pick. With these guys, crack missiles. So think Siege Tyrants, Fulmentari Terminators, anything like that. Death, death, death. Okay? But even if it's not those units, tough 4, hey, you got a 5+ invul, 5+ save. So bolt guns are dangerous to you. 3s to hit, 4s to wound. You get a 1 in 3 of the wounds you take, you will save. So at 30 points a pop, you're the price of a Terminator, and you do not have the survivability or the damage output of a Terminator. Not great. Ruinstorm Lesser Demons. You are Marine stats. You've got an extra attack, but no actual war gear. You've got the demon armaments. So AP4 attacks, 6s to wound will be AP3. Did the maths on this before. A charging unit of 10 of these guys charging into a unit of 10 tactical Marines, you are only going to kill 2. All said and done. Because hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, fishing for 6s, basically. And the return attacks, well, you have 1 wound, they've probably got damage mitigation from Feel No Pain from something like an Apothecary, and you've only got a 5+ save against them, and, well, that's far worse than their 3+ save against you, so you can see how this goes, and then you're probably going to lose the combat and yada yada. So Ruinstorm Lesser Demons, if they weren't the only troops choice, you probably wouldn't take them, because the far superior option is the Ruinstorm Demon Swarms. Now, the weakness of Swarms, last edition, was the fact that you would take double wounds from template weapons. But there's Skirmish this edition, so they can spread out further so you can hit less of them with blast and template weapons. That removes a lot of their key weakness, and on top of that, they've got 4 wounds at 15 points each versus 1 wound at 10 points each. What will I pick here to sit on objectives? And really spread right out around the objectives because, well, at 15 points for every additional Demon Swarm, well, 5 15s, 75? So 75 plus 80, 155 points. 155 points for, 40 wounds? Yeah, that's going to hold an objective for a while. Okay, 6-up invuln sucks. 6-up save sucks. They're never going to get an armor save, and you can double them out with strength 6. Yeah, they've got some issues here. Won't lie, definitely got some issues. But versus lesser demons, these guys are much better for holding objectives. You're going to at least have to devote some weaponry to them to take off all of those wounds and chew through them, and they're never going to run from leadership because they're demons. The only things they don't do is attack things well, and who cares if they don't attack things well, because that's not their job. Probably one of the best units in the list, actually. Ruinstorm Demon Cavalry, and here we hit another one of those. It's Demon Cavalry, but the unit type is just Demon, so nothing about cavalry rules confer to these guys. Take that how you will. Yes, they can take immaterial projectiles at 2 points each, which is going to be a Strength 4, Assault 2, Range 18 attack, because you're only a Strength 4 unit. It's a crappier bolt gun? Yay? I don't know. Again, you want to be in close combat. So why are you taking a shooting unit? Do you want to have 5 fights at 20 points a model with Space Marines? Probably not. But then do you want to be in close combat because you've only got 2 attacks with your demon armaments, which, again, they're demon armaments, so AP 4 only goes to AP 3 on 6s to wound. 20 points a model, that's a lot. You're not got a lot of damage output, and you're only leadership 6. So it's going to be very hard to make those leadership checks and not lose wounds in close combat. Just saying. Ruinstorm Demon Harriers. So Shrikes are gone, Harriers are in. And what are Harriers? They're basically Demon Furies, but 1 attack each. These are supposed to be like an Assault Marine. 1 attack. There's no way of getting 2 attacks. They don't have a pistol weapon or anything like that. They've got 1 attack each. 1, and it's a fixed squad size of 10. I mean, immaterial wings, okay, they're fast. If you activate the wings, movement 14. That is not enough. So, especially not with 5+ saves, weapon skill 4, strength 4. There is just nothing here to boost the unit. At 150 points, it's 15 points a model for a Marine stat line. And Marines have more attacks than you. Not good, not good. Ruinstorm Greater Demon Beast. So, reduced from last edition. The wounds and toughness are both down compared to the last edition. Hammer of Wrath is good. The ability to take 3 of them in a squad, just like last edition, is great. And in fact, last edition, what was really good about them is I would take these guys and take the Armor Bane Harpoon on them. And that was a really good weapon combo, I found. Because, they could threaten vehicles and dreadnoughts and such. It was a bit of a Hail Mary, but it worked well. Not so this edition. It is literally what you see is what you get. AP 3 attacks at their user strength, Brutal 2, only weapon skill 4. They're Demon Brutes, realistically, just with a little bit more survivability, I guess. And they got Hammer of Wrath. yay, and only 3 in the unit. They're just not bringing a lot to the party. So then you go, all right, what's our next heavy support option? Well, the Ruinstorm Demon Behemoth. Okay, so we've gone from Greater Demon Beast to Behemoth, but Behemoth has also lost a point of toughness, which sucks because last edition it was tough 8 in turn 1 and 2. That meant that you were invulnerable to bolt gun fire. That's awesome. It gives you a turn of not being touched by one of the most common weapons in the game. Not so this edition. Unfortunately, you can be wounded by bolt guns and you don't have the save to stand up to it unless you start sinking all your points into it. Well, just like with the HQ, how many points do you want to add? There are no flying monstrous creatures in this list. Well, Cander being a bit of an exception here, but Immaterial Wings, Etheric Flight, okay, either of those could work. Miasma of Rage, Warpforged Flesh, yeah, you're going to start equipping this thing the same way you would equip your HQs. So you're going to probably see Ruinstorm Demon Behemoth by 3, Ruinstorm Demon Sovereign by 3, and then maybe a sprinkling of troops in there. Because that's where all of the killing potential is in the list. And this is not I want to be maximum gaming and win all my games, this is why I'm taking these units. No, this is I need to try and stand up to the competition. Because although you've got Empyrean Avatar, you can still be functionally instant killed. Like, just takes a couple of force wounds. Or just a bunch of AP3, AP4 wounds. It'll do the job. You are only toughness 6. There are things out there that are strength 12. Many of them. Do you think you can fight a Dreadnought? Maybe not. Behemoth Blade, which it's armed with, melee, brutal 3, sunder, and goes to AP1 on 6s to wound. I mean, yeah, 5 attacks, it's better than a Dreadnought, but Dreadnought's weapon skill 5. Dreadnought's a higher toughness than you. Dreadnought's also brutal 3 with its attacks. It's a 2+ armor save, you're a 3+ armor save. Well, it's not going to matter in close combat, but you're twice the points of a Dreadnought, and that's before you buy any upgrades. See the issues here. You're fighting Dreadnoughts, you have double price Dreadnoughts to resist them with. Ruinstorm Archdemon. So, last edition was the go-to big bad guy of the list. Better than all the special characters, in fact. This time out, not so much. It is a bit squishy for the points. And again, you want to pay to upgrade it because you are still weak to all the same things the other units are. It's just you're gaining some positives and negatives of the Gargantuan type on top of. You don't have enough speed or presence in your base form to really get your points worth out of it. Therefore, you're going to buy the wings, the Warpforged Flesh, the Rage, all those sort of things I was talking about earlier. Therefore, you're going to end up a 580 points, give or take, model, all said and done. That's probably what's going to happen with this unit. And like I say, although the wings get you there quicker, you probably want Etheric Conduit because the ability to spam telepathy and shut down reactions is just so crucial. You can't let people have extra hits at you. This list needs to get to close combat. If they are getting extra shots at you, it is bad, bad news. Overwatch can cause a lot of issues for the list. This, for the points, is not that terrifying. You're getting essentially wounds over a Leviathan Dreadnought for 200 points more. And the Gargantuan subtype. You're not that much stronger that it's like, oh wow, this is really great. And yep, you've got Eternal Warrior. I mean, cool. But the force wounds are still going to ignore everything but your armor save and your invulnerable save. So you're just going to take wounds from force weapons. And there are plenty of force attacks out there. It could be Etheric Lightning. That's a force attack. Yeah, okay, it needs 6 to wound on this unit, but still, it's out there. And that's multiple shot force weapons. Librarians, every wound done by them will cause issues. Keep these in the back of your mind. Then we get to the characters. And points for points, did the maths. And Cander is a murder machine. He will kill so much stuff so quickly. Amazing. Has the speed, has the durability. Because of his Incandescent wings, they are so much better than the other demon wings in this list. He's really overpowered compared to the rest of the list. But is he overpowered in general? Well, I think he will scythe through many, many legions. He's probably under points by 100, 150 points. Can he be brought down, though, by the appropriate unit? Yes. Inner Circle Knight Cenobium, Fire Drakes, both of those units will take it down in 1.5 turns. I say 1.5 because it really depends on who gets the charge. If Cander charges, it's 2 turns. If Cenobium or Fire Drakes charge, they will do it basically pretty much at the same time, but there'll be more of them alive. Huskarls come in close behind that, as do a couple of units, and for things like the Huskarls, it's just because of the battle-hardened. Morlocks cannot do it. The the Red Butchers, of the Worldies, they can't do it. So it's not like everyone can do it, but there are a few units out there that can. Both versions of the Inner Circle Knight Cenobium and the Fire Drakes immediately come to mind. They will do it. The command squads with, say, Storm Shields, Thunderhammers, they do not have the numbers required. You need 10 models, and you'll be left with maybe 2 alive at the end of it all. That is how hard Cander hits. Nullificators will not do it. They just don't have the numbers in a unit. Although Disintegrators can do it. And in fact, Disintegrators are a problem for the entire Demons list. So Nullificators are a hard counter. They're kind of supposed to be, but I don't like hard counters where it's just an easy, I don't have to think about how to play this unit. It will just automatically be better than you. I don't like those in the game. That's a long-term pet peeve of mine. But Cander, really, really strong. Callbacks. So he was missing in the Allies Matrix document PDF that we got. And I joked about it at the time, like, well, they just forgot that he existed. Well, now they know he's in there, but he is fine. 9 wounds. He's got a lot of wounds. But he is not he is not Eternal Warrior. So a couple of Disintegrators with some good rolls, 3 Disintegrators with great rolling will instant kill callbacks hard to bite the Unbound. A couple of Force Weapon hits, same deal. Funny how this sort of works. Again, hard counters and the way these rules are written. I feel like this giant graded demon special character should probably have Eternal Warrior. You know, because he is an Eternal Warrior. He is a demon, you know, from another realm. But otherwise, he's pretty solid for 430 points. Nothing to write home about. He's not the fastest unit. Character, monstrous, psyker, can't join a unit. Nobody's going to join him either. It will not die 4+. You got a 50-50 chance of it actually going off and regenerating a wound, which is nice. But the only 4+ armor save, that really hurts. Because again, wounded on 5s by autocannons, wounded on 3s by las cannons, wounded on 4s by multi-melters. I mean, you're going to take wounds. Have you got enough at movement 7 to cross a battlefield? Probably not, unfortunately. And his demon weapons. Cool, Noxious Maw. Range, nil, strength +1, so strength 8. AP 2, melee, murderous strike 4+. Well, strength 8, you're going to instant kill most Marines anyway, so the murderous strike part kind of becomes redundant. Maybe if you're fighting a Dreadnought, then it becomes very spicy. Interestingly, your weapon skill 7. This is a Nurgle demon who's not very fast, you would think, being this giant fleshy mass. No, apparently he's initiative 5 and weapon skill 7. So, I guess looks are deceiving. This is a very, very nimble giant fat blob. And then Samus Unbound. Now, the difference between bound and unbound, by the way, they were bound in the Allies Matrix. It basically means you cannot ally in these guys with these guys. That's why bound and unbound exist. They can't be allied in together and put into the same army. So you can't have Samus and 2 Cabanders run around the battlefield, that sort of thing. Okay, fine, whatever. And Samus, just like in his bound version over here, scroll up, he's right at the top of the Demons. 380 points, 380 points. What do you reckon they changed on him? A little bit of leadership buff, a little bit here and there. It's not a lot at all, really. So, yep, it's basically the Allies Matrix Samus. higher leadership is neat. And he's solid for the points. But again, cost of 2 Contemptors. Will you be able to kill 2 Contemptors? Probably not. It's looking pretty iffy. I mean, Murder Strike 5+, some good rolling. Maybe. The whole AP1 on 6s is just hilarious. And then we get into the special rules, which I've spoken about throughout. And that really takes us to the end of the Demons the Ruinstorm. So, what do I think? Well, in past PDFs, I absolutely adored the militia list. Thought it was really, really good. I was very mixed in my feelings towards not great on the this Demons Allies Matrix list that they came up with, because it just was so thin on the ground, just had nothing to offer as far as Allies Matrixes go. This list is awful. It's awful because this is what they came up with, what, a year of work? More? I mean, Heresy 2.0 is well over a year and a half, nearly old. And the template was essentially written already. You know, the previous edition had a book. And all that needed to be added was, let's change the special rules from that edition and the unit types to suit this edition. They didn't do that. They instead created something new. And whilst that's not inherently terrible, they stripped it out and gutted it of options. A lot of demon units are sort of gone. Like, where's the Shrikes? Where's the flying monstrous creatures in the fast attack slot? Well, they're gone. When they expanded elites, they did it by taking units that were troops last edition and moving them across. Well, to me, that's not making the list better, really. It's just giving you more options in more slots, where there were not many options before, but they've done it by just stripping out another slot to do so, which is not ideal to me. And many of the options are, take this or you're an idiot. Take this or you're an idiot. Take this or you're an idiot. Versus, hey, take this, you might be an idiot, but it'll be a lot of fun. There is not, to my reading of this, many units where it's like, I want to take these mix of special rules because I think that will be hilarious. That doesn't exist this edition. It did last edition, and it does in the militia in this edition. This is not a great list. And I couldn't even begin to point out where it needs improvements. I think making the Sovereign 0 to 1 choice, so it doesn't just become the spammed HQ, would be a start. Also, the Sovereign, who is sort of a greater demon analog, or the Hierarch, at least one of these should also be able to take a attendant bodyguard. Okay? And war gear wise, there needs to be more war gear options in here. There are 2 war gear options basically for 99% of this list, which is Infernal Armaments or Demon Armaments. One is AP4 and becomes AP3 at 6s to wound. The other is AP3 and becomes AP2 at 6s to wound. And he's also brutal too. But that's not a lot to play with. And with your poor armor saves, and okay, your toughness is 5. It's higher than average through most of this army. That's cool. You don't have the portals of last edition allowing you things like rolling invulnerable saves. Your toughness will degrade from turn 4 onwards, turn 4, 5, 6. You're going to start seeing negative repercussions because you're getting weaker as the game goes on. At your boosted turns, you're not, again, coming out of portals like you were in the previous edition, where it was like, oh crap, instant threat on my doorstep because they're coming out of these portals at point blank range and they're really tough when they're in proximity to their portal. No, this edition, you are crossing the battlefield. You do not have the resilience to cross the battlefield because by the time you've crossed it, things like the Ruinstorm Demon Brutes in turn 4 of the game are dropping down to Marine level stats. Yes, they've got lots of wounds, but they don't have Marine level resilience. And resilience is brought to you by toughness and especially armor saves. Can't stress it enough. And Nullificators, Inner Circle Knights Cenobium, those kind of units are going to cause so much grief for Ruinstorm armies. Volkite weapons, Volkites are just terrifying if you're a demon. They will just scythe through units because they're small units. And the biggest units are going to be 20 models in the form of Ruinstorm Lesser Demons. But Ruinstorm Lesser Demons are not a threatening unit, and 20 models If you're shooting them with Volkites, Volkite Culverins, they will guaranteed wipe out 20 of these in a turn. It's just an automatic delete button. With 5+ invulnerables, all you have, and deflag rate, yeah, you are really screwed. If you're up against something like Imperial Fist, if they're spamming assault cannons or even heavy bolters, they will scythe down a lot of demons, and I'm talking like the big demons. If you have a 10 assault cannons and you shoot a demon sovereign, it dies. 10 Imperial Fist assault cannons will kill a demon sovereign. In 3 predators with 3 assault cannons each, and their autocannons takes it down to a wound on average. So it will die quick. Nullificators with disintegrators, again, same outcome. D3 wounds for every instant death. It's just a great way to bring down Demon Sovereign, because it is like a Contemptor Dreadnought. I mean, it's got 1 more wound, it's got 1 worse toughness, it's got a higher initiative, it's got a higher attacks, it's got a worse save, and it's got a slightly higher weapon skill. It has none of the ranged output of Contemptor Dreadnought, and a Contemptor Dreadnought is, 170 base points? Something like that. So you're almost twice the points. In fact, you're going to be twice the points of Contemptor Dreadnought, who is going to be rocking up with a Gravis Heavy Bolter and a Fist, and just swap to another Fist for free. And funny enough, maybe that Contemptor Dreadnought will go for the Chain Fist, so he gets instant death hits on you, and the 2 Dreadnoughts can just take turns kicking you to death. There are problems with the list. And I think it really shows in that it took this long to put it out, and this is the best quality we got. I don't hate it. I don't think it's absolutely terrible and never worth taking. I think it's got problems. It is not a good list. It's not well written, and it feels like a document that was knocked out in an afternoon. And we know it did not take an afternoon. And I don't want to be rude to the authors, because they're adding content to the game. But this level of content, 25 pages, you're telling me that they couldn't do this any sooner, that Ruinstorm players had to spend a year and a half of the game with no list, and then they finally got one. It's got, 8 items of war gear that's shared throughout the entire army, and half of them are optional items of war gear, 2 of them are shooting items, so they're useless. So functionally, you've got 2 items of war gear, infernal armaments and demon armaments, and that pretty much is the majority of the war gear in your entire army. This is it. This is the combined brain power of the writing team brought us this after a year and a half. I don't know, I'm just not that impressed by it as a document. And I think the community is very, very quickly going to turn around. Probably the Panoptica guys would be my guess. And Mournival will also take a stab at it. They will make many changes very quickly to this list. I have no doubt of that. Probably something like adding a second wound to Ruinstorm Lesser Demons. That would go a long way towards making them viable, because you've got to have a trade-off there. You can't charge Marine points and have no ranged weapon, no Legionnaires Astartes, and a far worse armor save and worse ballistic skill. You can't do that. You can't charge those kinds of points for these things. It is a great way to have no balance in your game. Anyway, that's it for me. I am Mac with the Outer Circle. I hope you all found this informative. I do apologise if it comes off a bit salty, but I'm trying to give these things the most fair rundown I am and give you the reasoning as to why I feel this way. And like I said, it's not about winning all of your games. It's about being competitive with the average list that you're going to come across. It's not how to fight a Pride of the Legion Dark Angels who are using all Indominus Terminators as troops and then 4 units of Inner Circle Knight Cenobium in their elites. No, I'm not telling you how to fight that. I'm telling you, you go up against the average Marine list who's bringing a few tactical squads, Legion Heavy Support, a couple of Contemptors, maybe 1 unit of Elite Terminators, the average list. You are going to have problems against it if you try and make the quote-unquote average demon list by restricting yourself to the fluffy choices. You're not going to have a pleasant time, and that's concerning to me. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Leave your thoughts and comments below, and I'll see you on the next video.